What's happening in the canine industry? For all the latest news, views, and expert opinions, stay right here for the Canine Paradigm. You'll hear from industry leaders, experts, doyens of the industry, learned colleagues, movers and shakers, and the odd randy guest. Get the latest insights and expert advice from both here and abroad from the people in the know. Now, here are your hosts, Glenn Cook and Pat Stewart. And I'm Lofty Fulton, and I'm out of here.
Glenda?
Yes.
We have to do a new ad.
We do.
It's a solemn time. Mm-hmm. Our long-time sponsor of the show, George Kittredge,
Yes.
very, very sadly passed away. And we formerly used to advertise for him his Rowdy Hound boxes.
We did.
So we don't actually know what's happened with Rowdy Hound boxes. You know anything about that?
I looked at the website. It said that they're recalibrating since their founder and boss has passed. But nonetheless, I think that you and I want to honour the memory of George Kittredge anyway. He was a friend to both of us, a hell of a good guy, and he supported us almost immediately. He was on board through and through, and I just don't want any of us to forget George. He was a terrific human being.
So we intend to continue to advertise Rowdy Hound, even though we don't know what's going on with them.
Yep.
In the hopes that they keep going, and that can be a bit of George's legacy that we're able to continue to promote.
I hope so.
In checking it out, we had a look to see, because we're not real good with the sponsorship. So we had a look to see who's actually paying for sponsorship. And we have a list of people to tell you that we support. And the first is our sugar mama, Barbara de Groot.
She's been with us from the start as well. Barbara's been an absolute staple in our...
She's a gem.
She is a gem.
She has a business.
She does. From the Heart Dog Training.
From the Heart Dog Training.
Yeah.
You can check it out. But she supports us as much and more than anybody ever has. So we appreciate you very much, Barbara. Another person who's supported us from the start.
The Einzelwiener.
Einzelwiener.
The Bullfed.
The Bullfed.
Yep.
It's where I get all my stuff.
Yeah.
It is, truly. It's where I get all my dog gear. If I need something, Jason's my first point of call. I don't use his shit website. He has a website. It's dog shit. I just message him directly. You guys probably should use his shit website, but I don't.
Yeah, because you don't want to message him directly and get his grumpy ire of the day.
Yeah, but do it. Get all your dog stuff from Jason. He's got everything you need. He's got all the shit that you need to train a dog for realty.
Everybody who comes to seminars and looks at meals and asks me meals questions, ask Jason.
Yeah.
Jason can point you in the right direction for getting the meal that's best suited for you.
I really like his leashes. I'm a big fan of his leash pack. That's why I sort of convinced him to do it. But anyway, get your stuff from Einzelwiener.
Yep.
Do you know who has a fantastic website and ships internationally?
My wife?
Your wife,
Yeah.
Canine Pharmaceuticals.
I couldn't imagine her not having a good website, how much of a perfectionist she is.
Well, the products are amazing. My dog merely being alive is a walking testimonial to that. My dog, who I've retired numerous times and has come out of retirement when I've managed to get his body back to healthy, and a big part of that is related to Canine Pharmaceuticals. So check it out, everybody.
I could say so many nice and biased things about Canine Pharmaceuticals and my wife, but what I will say is ignore me. Just look at testimonials. The testimonials speak for themselves. That's where the field trials are working. What makes Narelle's day, and mine as well, is when people are emailing in and sending messages of, well, primarily people have had no hope in the past because just everything that they were trying wasn't working, and now it is. And that is the testament that something is actually really working. And the other thing which I will add, one of the things that Narelle's told me in the past is dogs are incapable of understanding the placebo effect.
Oh, that's a good point.
So you can fake it on a human, but you can't fake it on a dog.
I never thought about that before. That's actually a really good point.
Well, my wife's actually a very smart person.
There you go.
So she's told me that humans are subject to the placebo effect where dogs are not. So it either works or it doesn't on dogs.
There you go. That makes total sense.
Yep.
There's one other person who puts a fair amount of work into this show.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah. Funny about that.
And I have a digital product that you can buy. If you go to my website, seriousdogbusiness.com, right now I've got 2 courses available to you. The Overview, which is a small course where you could learn how I teach.
Yep.
But the other one is the Wave Tops, which is a bigger course. It's everything I know about dog training. Well, it's not everything. It's a lot of what I know about dog training.
Yeah,
Check it
terrific.
out.
Yeah.
$500 dues. That's all it's going to cost you.
I recommend it when people are saying, what do I do? How do I get in the industry? I recommend them to your course.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks,
Yeah.
sir. All right, on with the show. Welcome back to the Canine Paradigm. I'm your host, Pat Stewart, and I'm joined in the studio today by my co-host, Glenn Cook.
We are in studio, and I want to interrupt our regularly scheduled program.
Interrupt or just begin?
Just begin with something else, because we did have a topic, but something just came to light only recently. that I took a screenshot of, and I quickly want to talk about this because I saw some comments by colleagues in the industry that were as or equally outraged as I am about it. And it's from our not good friends at PETA who have said, crate training is a myth. Your dog deserves better. Being locked in a crate for hours isn't training. Dogs are social. They need exercise, enrichment, and love, not a cage. Crates don't teach good behavior. They cause anxiety and make dogs feel trapped and neglected. Your dog's happiness should never come second to your convenience. What a load of fucking shit that is.
Yeah, that's terrible. Have a read of that again because the problem is they've connected a truth to a lie.
Yep. Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, but the issue is when you read that, initially I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. Then there's a little piece in the middle, which is obvious, right? Like dogs need training and enrichment and blah, blah, blah. And then ridiculous at the end. So we can't say that is a totally false statement. Like that's very clever, whoever wrote that, because to say if you were in argument with that, are you saying, Glenn, that dogs shouldn't be trained or enriched? Is that what you're saying? That's the implication to say that that's all bullshit. So they've managed to fit in the lie amidst the truth. So now when you point out the lie, you can be pointed out as being, oh, so you're a person that doesn't want to enrich the lives of dogs.
That's incredible that people have the hide and also the tenacity to develop such a narrative where they can trick you on an emotional shit sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is straight out of the political playbook.
It is a playbook. You're exactly right.
This is what left and right-wing parties have been doing to each other since the dawn of time, right? Hiding a big lie in some truth so that you can't make an accurate statement against that statement.
It just further points out to me that organisations like that are not our friends. When you read those sort of statements, as you pointed out, just the hyperbole around it, you kind of say to yourself, how can you put such inaccurate information and then slide in a little bit of an emotional barrage in the middle of it?
Yeah.
But then feed people up on it, because there's legitimately great people out there, really good people who are excited about getting their dog, and they'll read that and that will scare the bejesus out of them.
Yeah.
And they will think, how could I do this to my beloved family member? I've raised dogs with crates ever since I've had dogs. I've done crate training with all my dogs. I'm sure you have, and I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands, if not multiples of millions of people out there who are doing exactly the same, all for good reason. Randy, if he had his choice, he doesn't really like coming inside. He can't settle inside, but at night when it's cold, he demands to go into his crate.
Yeah.
He does not want to be outside when it's cold. He wants to be in his crate. The last thing at night, when it's cold at night, he gets put in his crate. He's happy. He sleeps till morning and he gets let out and he goes outside. Mando's exactly the same. He is absolutely fine with going to his crate. He was since he was a puppy. He never made a big deal about it. He never made an issue. Even the dogs that did make a little bit of an issue, once they realized, oh, this is not a bad thing, it's actually a good thing. The way that we trained it was always an appetitive motive behind it. So the dogs realized this is a brilliant function. It serves us well. Now, if they said something along the lines of, and this goes for our own welfare organisations as well, for people who use the convenience of a crate to trap their dogs in for
18 hours a day.
Exactly, like where dogs are soiling on themselves and they're really in distress, and that narrative was explained, I would be in total support of that. As a trainer, as a behaviourist, as somebody who's been involved with raising, training, breeding dogs, as long as I have, I would be in full support of that. I'd be an advocate for their words. I'd say, yep, absolutely. Like if you're going to use a crate, it's like every other tool or any other responsibility that you have in raising, training, guiding, rearing, whatever you want to call it, of your dog. There is a responsibility around this, and this should be in conjunction with best practices with your dog. Just to rob people of another valuable tool, to guilt people like that, is just incredibly unfair. You got to understand, anybody in any industry, like if you're holding these people in high value, you got to understand they are coming to take from you. They're not coming to give to you. They're takers, not givers. Their mandates, their cornerstone is for domestication of pets to be removed. It's not an addition, it's a subtraction.
So let's play this out a little bit.
Sure.
Crates, the benefits of.
Yep.
I can't imagine raising a dog without a crate. When I was a kid, when growing up, we didn't have crates at home. We had a backyard dog that lived in the backyard and then eventually got access to the front yard and all that kind of stuff, right? But the dog wasn't an in-the-house dog. It had the backyard. We had a puppy. I was young, so I don't remember exactly how that went down. I don't know how that training went. But I don't know now. Like, I genuinely don't know how I would keep a young dog safe 24/7 and manage it to not get itself into trouble without a crate.
In the early days, before crates were viable, before they were a thing, so we used to keep dogs in the laundry.
In the laundry, yeah.
And dogs would destroy the fuck out of the laundry.
Yeah.
They'd come out with cuts on their face from breaking tiles off the wall. They'd be ingesting things that they shouldn't have been because they were in such high distress.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen all the time. But, I mean, I remember distinctly one of our dogs that went in there, he clawed at the wall so hard as a puppy that he pulled tiles off the wall.
Yeah.
You know, we were in a rented house and I had to get a tiler to come around and fix a tile, and he cut his feet.
Yeah.
He cut his pads from break him down. Are we not supposed to put dogs in the laundry as well? What are we supposed to do with dogs? Just let them roam the house at night, shit where they want to, eat what they want to, run around and do whatever they want to do? Like, how do you tell people how to maintain a level of control with an animal that's a denning animal by instinct? You know, like if it's outside during the night, this is why dogs run and hide under the house during thunderstorms and so forth.
Yeah.
They find a dark corner in the back of the house where automatically finding somewhere where they feel compressed and secure, where they're away from trouble, where they're away from whatever it is that's causing them distress. They hide in bushes. They find some sort of cavity that they can squeeze themselves into and hide themselves during the day. They hide in their own kennels. But then, I guess on the other side of that, if we're going to flip this narrative, they'll say, yeah, but they can release themselves whenever they want to. Yeah, or they can injure themselves in getting into a place where they shouldn't have been. Whereas if we just put them in the crate and taught them how to abide by the rules, the regulations and the appetitive nature of the crate, everything would be fine. They can't injure themselves. They're safe. And this is also taking away control and the integrity of people to be able to say people are smart enough and clever enough and educated enough with all the material that's available on online courses, podcasts and everything that's out there that they can learn how to safely crate train their dog and find appropriate times to release their dogs, toilet their dogs and do all those sort of things around it. The fucking audacity of that statement, it just sends me over the moon.
Yeah, so we had a topic that we did want to go through, but we've just been shown that screenshot. We'll put it into our discussion group or something so people can see that.
Yep.
I want to tease this out more. So I would like to be more prepared, but reasons for crate training, right? The one that I always fall back on, it's what I tell people who don't see a need for a crate. Like, for example, a really good friend of mine just got a dog. He got a rescue. It's not an adult, but it's an adolescent. I think it was 8 or 9 months old. It's very easygoing. It's a wonderful dog, right? We hit the rescue lottery. That's fantastic. And I said to him, we're doing the sort of intro to having a dog in the house. And I was like, you got to get a crate. And he's like, oh no, but the dog doesn't need that. It's easy. He's going to sleep on the bed with me. It's a golden retriever. So like, it's totally capable of doing that. It's actually is a wonderful dog. And I was like, no, you need a crate. He's like, no, I don't, because like I don't have cause for that. He's home. He's a former army guy who's injured. So he's home 24/7. The dog's going anywhere he goes with him and he's got no need for the crate. And I was like, but you do, because I'm telling you that dog's going in a crate. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, it's going to the vet. Like something's happening at some point in that dog's life. It's going to the vet and spending the night. You live in the city. That's happening. There's almost no way that at some point in that dog's life, he's not spending the night in the vet. And the reason he's spending the night in the vet is because he's sick or injured. And the last thing you want him to be doing is be in a crate for the first time, because that's what the vet's going to do. The vet's going to put him straight in a crate. The vet ain't taking him home to sleep on his couch. At the vet, he's going in the crate, and you're now compounding that stress on top of the whatever reason he's at the vet for, right? So that to me is always my fallback. That's like, even when people say there's no need for that, I'm like, no, there is. There is a need. It's not an acute need. It's not one that you have. But that dog is going to go in a crate. At some point in its life, it's going in there. And you should do that at a time when the level of stress that comes from being in a crate, because it can be stressful for the first few times, right? Like a dog has to be acclimated to it. But you're now going to be placing that stress on top of the separation from you, because you're not staying at the vet, and whatever the reason the dog is at the vet for, right? He's sick, he's injured, whatever it is, you're now just layering that stress.
Yeah, exactly.
And as we know with layered stress model, it's like Archimedes' bath. the actual thing that tips the water over the edge, that breaks the camel's back, whatever fucking other metaphor I can possibly use, that need only be a small thing. It doesn't need to be some massive thing, because if the other things are big enough, that last piece could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Or
how did we
spills the
not
water.
get Trump to sign an executive order on this?
Dogs can be in crates,
Yeah.
or PETA has to fuck off.
Yeah.
But I think that's the issue, right? So then that's my eternal fallback. I use that all the time. That's my, like, you're right. I see you have no cause for a crate. This is why we still must do some crate training. And every now and again, the dog has to go into the crate just to feel safe in the crate. And throughout my time of coaching people and training with people, everybody has then been like, oh, it turns out the dog does like the crate. And like they sort of choose the crate a fair bit, you know? My own dog, I don't have a crate in the house anymore. My dogs are at the point now where I don't have cause for that. I still have crates at home because I have other people's dogs coming. But in my living space, I don't have a crate. I've got kennels outside where they can go. But when Remy did have a crate, that's where he would sleep with the door open.
They put themselves to bed.
Go
in
and
their
get in
crate.
there.
Yep.
And like he's happy in there.
Yep.
He even would do the same when we get a bunch of kids over to my house. If my kids have other friends over and whatever, and things get kind of crazy, that's when Remy gets like, oh, I don't want to be around all these kids.
Yeah, it's his safe space.
Yeah, and he goes and wants to get in the crate
Exactly.
in the past, and now he goes and wants to get in the kennel. He's like, no, I don't want to be around this. So to me, I think that is the first reason why I kind of insist that everybody's dog be stable in a crate, is that it's going to happen. It's going to happen at the vet. I think the second is that I love the idea of having a safe space for a dog in the home. Like if a dog's going to live in the home, I think that there has to be a place that the dog can go to where no one fucks with it. And, you know, I gave this advice just on the weekend. I was at a kid's birthday party, like a 3-year-old's party, and someone who knows what I do asked me about like, oh, it's clear that our dog doesn't like this new baby they've got and wants to escape the baby all the time. They've got 2 other kids that the dog's great with, but this baby, the dog doesn't want to be around. And I was like, okay, what happens like when they're around, the dog wants to leave? I was like, okay, make sure that dog has a place to go and inform everybody that they're not to interact with the dog when the dog is in that place. Well, what should we use that for? Like, where should we make that space? I was like, get a crate.
Yeah.
That's the space, because now the dog can go in there. You can close the dog. Kids can't interact. They're separated from each other. And that becomes the dog's safe space where you go like, hey, man, you do have to tolerate all this stuff going on in your life. You have to put up with that. You're a dog. You're living in this family.
Yep.
This is what this family is. And you're going to learn to be able to handle this. But if you go over threshold, I'm not going to force you to stay in this space. You can leave, and here's the place where you should go. And we have a contract with the dog saying like, no, if you go to that space, you will not be pursued. No one will mess with you. You go and you spend as much
Get
time
your
in there
pigs
as you want.
here, you get whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just for you. That's your man cave.
Okay. Going to the vet, safe space for the dog.
Yep.
Management. How the fuck do you toilet train if you want the dog to live in the house? How do you toilet train it without some form of confinement? Like without having a place to put it, bring it out? Like, I don't get it.
I have no idea. And this is why I share in some of the outrage that has been exhibited by colleagues and friends in the industry and pointing out these exact points themselves. The genius behind it is the outrageous nature. It's going to go viral because so many people are going to be so pissed off about it. They're going to read it and go, oh, we have to talk about this like you and I are doing now. The disgusting part about it is it's a plan to take away another capability to control your dogs. And then what?
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, and that's the question that I wanted to ask on the back of this. Like you're putting up a great example of why crates, but without crates, then what? Like, what do we do? When you've taken away all the tools, like what funnel are these people tipping us into? Where's the direction that they're trying to take us? I think you and I, through some of our conversations over these episodes, over time, have been teasing out, where is this funnel taking us? What is the direction? Why the insistence on the removal of tools that help us control and mediate communication between us and our dogs? Why the removal of exceptional capabilities as crate training and keeping dogs safe and allowing the family and the dog to have time away from each other safely? To reiterate what I said before, if you came up with a nice narrative where you said, don't overdo these things, guys. Like if you're going to use tools, there has to be a understanding and a SOP around them. And the same thing with crates. Like you can't have dogs in crates for a certain amount of time without
Let's read it again and see what they say. So let's go through it line by line.
Crate training is a myth. Your dog deserves better.
Okay, stop.
Okay.
What do you mean it's a fucking myth?
Well, they don't explain it.
Yeah, but Bigfoot is a myth, right?
Yeah, there's no evidence.
There's no evidence.
Bigfoot. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Let's stay off that gravy train, right?
Let's restrict our conspiracy theory talk to aliens, the orbs, the Anunnaki.
Yep.
We're bought in on them. I'm not bought in on Bigfoot. Okay. But we'll keep Bigfoot out of the conversation.
Yep.
I'll tell you what is a myth. What is a myth?
Mythological is something that's been passed down through generations. It's actually stories.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on.
Let's look it up, the definition.
Yeah. What is a myth? So I've looked up in the dictionary, according to the Oxford Dictionary, a myth is a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining a natural or social phenomenon, and typically involving supernatural beings or events. And then number 2 is a widely held but false belief or idea. So I'm sure that's what they're talking about.
Yes.
A widely held but false belief or idea. And crate training is a widely held but false belief or idea is what they're saying.
So how can that be when there's physical evidence of it working and supporting evidence of people around the world with millions and millions of dogs successfully doing it and living a happily ever after life? How can that be mythical?
Let's carry on.
There's support, there's video evidence, and you and I are living it. I've got a crate out in the back there.
Yeah, so here's the funny one. Our evidence on our dogs, they're experiencing the crate being repetitive. In fact, some of the dogs that, like your dog, Randy, and certainly dogs that I've experienced, like they kind of need a crate. They're not happy out of a crate. They need that confinement. Like, we got dogs in our club that don't do well with freedom. They need to be like, no, I see too much. I feel too much. I have too much going on. You need to restrict that from me and put me in that space.
I couldn't guarantee Randy's safety if he wasn't in a crate overnight.
Yeah.
And that is inside the house. Here's the diabolical side of that. When we're outside the house, he spends, let's say in a 24-hour day, he's got complete access to an outside area, and he's got a whole inside area that he can come to with beds and water and everything like that. He spends, and even when he was a younger dog, he's an older dog now, he spends about 22 hours in that inside area voluntarily.
That's just where he hangs out.
Even though he's got the capability to go out in the yard, which he does. He goes out there and he digs and bites things and barks at the world, and he does all those things. But 22 hours out of that day, he's in that smaller area voluntarily.
Yeah.
Voluntarily.
Yeah.
Yep, he chooses it. Even with Mando, like if I put him in the backyard, he'll go out, he'll go and sniff around for 5 minutes, and he stands at the back door with his mournful face on him saying, put me back in my locked run.
Okay, but our evidence is anecdotal, sir. You don't have a PhD in anything, and neither do I. So therefore,
well, that completely eradicates me from observational sciences.
That's right.
Yep.
You know what we should do? We should ask some of the scientists that do studies on dogs, when they're not doing the actual observations and studies on the dogs, where are those dogs?
Dr. Melanie Uda, who I really trust, in my eyes, she's at least creditable because she doesn't preach emotional science.
Yeah, she's great.
She's great. She talks about evidence-based, what is actually hands on the ground, real life. Melanie, if you're out there, if you're listening to the podcast, or if anybody happens to send her a DM, Melanie, love to hear from you, because
we should get her back on.
We definitely should get her back on. We've been requested to have her back on.
But what do you think when they're doing scientific studies, like say, for example, Ivan's E-collar one?
Yep.
What do you think those dogs were doing when they weren't being assessed?
Don't you dare, sir. Don't bring logic and common sense into this conversation when we're trying to...
Do you think maybe they were in crates? Because I've got a feeling that the majority of the dogs that we're going to
in the back of a car in a crate?
Yeah. Do you reckon they were in the crate?
Oh,
I think there's a good chance.
No, they were just running around.
Yeah,
on the
they were
field.
just free.
Yeah.
They were just doing whatever you want.
Half of them were anyway.
But okay, so let's. That's maybe a bad example, right?
Yep.
Any study you want, I'm telling you. I've been at the dog lab at Yale. I've watched them do experiments there. Guess where the dogs who weren't doing the stuff were? In the crate room, in crates, right? So I don't think it's fair to say that crate training is a myth, because, and even using the example of a widely held but false belief or idea, crates are a place.
They're fact.
Yeah, they're real.
They're fact.
They're not mythological.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
Well, they're saying crate training, not crates.
Yeah,
They're
okay,
saying
but then even crate training, let's tease that out. Do you want me not to crate train? Do you want me just to jam the dog in the crate and good luck to you, sir? Like, you don't want me to do the things that we painstakingly teach people how to do.
You and I are on the same side on this.
Me and Jazz are ready to release, probably by the time this podcast comes out,
course.
our puppy course. It's ready. We're just waiting for the right way to release. It's going to go to the Patreon people next week. We have an entire module on crate training, and not just like the basics of it, like how to properly acclimate a very high drive dog to being in the crate.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah, like there's several hours of information within this course on how to do that. So that's not a myth. It's a real thing. You can buy it from me. I can't show it to you. You can buy it.
Do you want to know another fact here? Another fact.
Yeah.
When we brought Mando home for the first time, when he was a little puppy, we got him at 8 weeks by Lisa. We brought him home. And I thought, this is going to be a killer for the next 2 weeks. He's going to squeal. He's going to carry on. We put him in the crate. He went to sleep. I got up at 3 o'clock because I thought, I haven't heard peep from this dog. I hope he's still alive. Walked in there. He was upside down, sound asleep. And Narelle got up. She always gets up about 5:36. She got up, walked in there. He was still asleep. She had to wake him up to get him up, took him out. He went to the toilet. And he was happy as Larry. And I thought, oh, well, this is the fluke night. It's just, we got away with it. Tomorrow, the next night's going to be an absolute fucking disaster. Next night, put him in his crate. He hopped into his bed. He was chewing on his little bunny that we gave him. And he slept through the entire night and did exactly the same thing. And he did that every fucking day that we've had him. He has never, ever protested against the crate in his entire life. Now, that's an anomaly.
Did Lisa put them in crates?
She did all. Yeah, she did all sorts of preparation. She was doing an amazing job in her puppy preparation. She was doing like little baby agility courses, bags of cans, all the responsible things that good breeders should be doing before the handshake occurs. So yes, I would attribute it to the hard work Lisa did. But then again, because he's in a new area and he's away from his siblings and he's away from his normal environment, you would expect that they would have some sort of kickback. Didn't have a bar of it. Macho, the German Shepherd we were raising for a period of time, he squealed for 2 nights, and then after that, he was as good as gold. Overall, we've been really, really lucky with crate training.
Okay, let me just put on my PETA hat here.
Yes, certainly.
So I think you're a monster. Of
course.
I think that you are a disgusting human being.
Yes.
First of all, let me just backtrack a little bit and tell you why you're a piece of shit.
Okay.
I understand.
There's probably people that agree with that.
I understand. I understand you purchased this dog from a breeder.
Yes.
Are you aware that there are dogs in rescue who you could have taken instead of that dog?
I've rescued dogs before, but not this one. Not this one.
You purchased a dog from a greeter. Have you seen people call them that?
Yes, I
greeters?
have. Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you? And then, worse still, you brought the dog home and you made it sleep
in a crate.
In a crate.
Yes, I did.
You fucking monster.
Yes. This is why I'm outraged. I have skin in the game.
You piece of shit.
Yep.
How dare you?
But it worked. It worked successfully.
Yeah.
Our dog is happy. He's well adjusted. He puts himself to bed in his crate at night. He looks forward to it. Every night he goes in there. He knows that it's a very rewarding place to be. And he also sleeps soundly through the night. If for some reason those dogs are restless and they're calling out to us in their way, like banging the crate or barking or anything like that, we will get up and address whatever issue. They don't do that without justification.
Yeah. Remy was an easy dog as well. He, but he came from Melbourne, full day drive. He was in the crate by himself. And so by the time I took him home, I can remember putting him in the car, had the little puppy crate set up. And I remember wasn't even out of the street that I picked him up from before he had sort of quit on screaming in the crate. And then that was kind of it. That dog has never once shit in my house. He was just a dream. He was an easy dog to raise. He was a headache in many other ways, but the living situation was very easy. It was wonderful. I've had hard dogs. Like I've seen some dogs not like the crate, you know, like for sure. I remember picking a puppy up at the airport one time and as I was driving away, just thinking, what have I done? Like, I'm stuck with this dog for this period because it was having a hard time to crate. I don't think it had ever been crated. It had been crated on the plane and it had a sibling in the crate with it. So it probably wasn't too bad. And then they got split up at the airport. I took one and it had a hard time. It was a good couple of days of having a rough time. But again, it's not that I'm just whacking the dog in the crate. We've got the enrichment stuff in the crate. I've got like the little chewy thing that I put in there.
Time.
Yeah, like most dog trainers, I've got a whole fleet of puppy shit. Like I've got a box, like a tub full of like the little blue Kong.
And there's water in there and there's paper that they like if they have an accident, they can go on. They've got an area which is separate to their paper and their water.
Yeah.
So Mando, he soiled in there like twice, I think.
Yeah, right.
He went on his paper twice. The rest of the time he just waited. Like he'd wait until morning, he'd come out, stretch his legs, then we'd pick him up, put him out in the grass and he'd go to the toilet.
Yeah.
There was no urgency. There was no panic. There was no frustration. Like all of those are surefire signs that we look for as empathetic and caring owners of our dogs. Like we pay attention to all those things. Like if there's distress there and there's urgency, we address those matters quick, smart. But the whole point is, like us, when dogs are ready for bedtime, they're good to go. Like they're happy to go in there and they're happy to have their private space and they need this sleep too. Like this is an important part of circadian rhythms, growth, development, mental accuracy, the body resetting itself, cells cleansing, doing all of the things that we're biologically designed to do when we go into a short form hibernation. You're supposed to have uninterrupted and proper REM sleep. So if you can provide a space for a dog where it feels safe, it feels comfortable, it's got its own little area that it can go and peacefully sleep in, they're happy.
Yeah. That's what is overlooked in what they're saying there is exactly as you said. Like back in the day, the dog goes in the laundry, right? Like everybody looks at it, like a reasonable person looks at this puppy and goes, okay, you don't know shit, right? Like you don't know anything, but you are going to need to piss and shit probably multiple times through the night. You don't know what is yours to destroy and what is not. So I need to put you in a place that can be cleaned easily because that is going to happen. You're going to soil without me getting the opportunity to take you out. You're going to want to damage stuff. The laundry is the place to put you. But then there's the separation because very few people's bedrooms where you sleep is anywhere near the fucking laundry in the house. Whereas with the crate, I can move that anywhere. I can put that anywhere I like.
You can put it in your bedroom if you want. Yeah.
And look, I'll admit there's times in the past where I've even called my like underground storeroom the crying room because I'd be like, okay, the dog's going to cry. I'm going to put him in the crate in there. But then there's been and like typically that's going to be a working dog, right? That I'm going to allow to cry that out. But then there's been other dogs that I'm very prepared to bring the crate into their bedroom and have it like right next to me. So that
extinction bursts happen with big feelings and behaviors that little babies have.
Exactly.
But one of my favorite memes on social media at the moment is that little baby, the little girl baby who's trying to get something out of the toy box and the mother goes, no. And the little baby goes, ee, and has a little freak out about it and then goes to do it again. And people have memed that, like they've green screened it and the baby's grabbing at different things.
Yeah, right.
Like they had one as the baby representing Trump and putting its hand up into Canada and doing that. Now, if you look at that entire clip, because I've read some of the comments online where people are going, you're a monster. That poor little baby, the cry broke my heart. How could you do that? You could have just given her the toy. If you look at the entire clip, which is available on YouTube, that little baby's got toys everywhere.
Yeah.
Like they're spread all over the floor. The mother did an exceptional job. What she's teaching is you can't have everything you want all the time.
Yeah.
So once the baby got over being told no a couple of times, which clearly the baby understood because it stopped the behavior, it took its hand out and had a little panic attack or a little sook over it, tried to do the behavior again. The mother reinforced by saying, no, you're not doing it, had another little sook. And then the baby crawled around, grabbed a toy, and then crawled over to its mother.
Yeah.
I went looking for the clip because I thought, I wonder what happens next in this. I wonder if it exists. And I found it. I thought, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what happens in those sort of situations. Yes, there's going to be an extinction burst. Yes, there's going to be like an attempt to get their way. It's what we all do. If it's presented with us, we think, well, if I get my way in these sort of things, we certainly see this in human behavior long-term enough. Like if I can push a narrative long enough and get away with it, I'm going to take it to whatever extreme. I'm going to test. I'm going to find out where the boundaries go. If I can't find the boundary there, I'm going to push and push and push and push more to see where this eventually takes us. Now, this gets me back to my original question. If you take away crates and you take away training tools, what's the fucking end goal narrative here?
Yeah, to make owning pets so difficult to...
100%.
Like, without a doubt, there's some more stuff I want to tease out, but I think without a doubt, the goal there is to make owning a puppy such a headache that
you don't want to do it.
Well, so if you're the average pet dog Jono, right? Like, you're definitely not listening to this. You're just a person that has decided, I'm going to get a dog. I've wanted one.
Yep.
You're an animal lover, so you don't know the diabolical, satanic, fucking disastrous group of assholes that they are, right? You don't know that. You think that these aren't what's the other one? People eating tasty animals.
Yeah.
You think that PETA are the good guys, right? Like, you don't know, because that's what the average, like, people think Animal Justice Party and PETA and all those, like, the average person looks at that and goes, no, they're the good guys, like, for sure, which is the messaging. Like, they've done a good job of building that label. It's not until you sort of know what's what that you look and go, oh, wait, no, these aren't the good guys.
The insert there, the sad thing is there are good people within it trying to do good things. Like, their narrative, and this happens with all of these organizations, is that there are people, even in our own homeborn organizations, that are incredible people doing great things for cats, dogs, rabbits, horses, and everything like that, where they really, truly believe in the 5 freedoms and the ethical welfare of these animals, and they do the right thing. But then there's a diabolical hierarchy that hovers overhead of it that I just don't understand the problem is I do understand their narrative.
We're going to have to expand on the 5 freedoms, but let's get to that in a moment. I think the point of a post like that is that the average person who doesn't know anything and totally believes PETA to be true and honest and the shining light of knowing what's what for animal health and safety, they read that, they go, okay, no crate training, right? Got it. It is cruel. I agree, right? Thank you, PETA. Thank you for that information. I wouldn't dream of doing that to my dog. They get a puppy. It's a fucking headache. They get a trainer around. The trainer is like, or they go to puppy class or whatever, and the people in the puppy class are like, okay, we're going to do the crate bit. And they're like, oh, no, I'm not doing that.
No.
PETA said, no, I'm not doing it. And then they're immediately, now there's conflict between them and their trainer.
Yep.
Right? So they take PETA's side because...
Why wouldn't you?
Well, they're the authority.
Global organization, well-funded.
Maybe my local trainer is the piece of shit PETA's been saying. Oh, I found out they're a balanced trainer. They're really terrible, right?
Yep.
Like,
they use
at puppy
tools.
school, what fucking difference is it? If someone's competent, right, now that's important to understand they're competent. At puppy school, kind of doesn't matter whether they're balanced trainer or force-free. It's all kind of the same for puppies, right?
Are you familiar with that term? You would be, but our public actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you go to puppy school. They like, oh, so should you put a crate? Oh, no, I can't do that. PETA said I can't, right? So now there's a conflict between you and the trainer. There's a distrust already established. Now, for me as a trainer, that's an immediate red flag. The moment, like, if one of the first things I say to someone is like, hey, we got to do this, and they go, no, I'm not doing that. Hard no. Usually I'm like, cool. Find someone else's phone number. Like, if this is our first interaction and the first thing I suggest to someone, and most trainers are the same, surely they're the same. Like, if the first thing that you suggest to someone, they go hard no because PETA said so, I am probably not the trainer for you. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm like, hey, probably call someone else.
There's just no point in having that conflict with a person where it's going to get personal. It doesn't need to be. I like and I appreciate, won't speak for others, but I really appreciate when people are curious and they say to me, hey, I've been told this. I have concerns and feelings about it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's not the hard no, right? That's like when you say, hey, we got to get a crate, and they go, I saw this post from PETA. And you're like, oh, yeah, tell me about it. And like, oh, it says, no. It's like, okay, well, let's tease that out a bit. Or in fact, I got this whole podcast you could listen to about
Yeah.
you could hear me
that's
talk
a
about
flexibility
Bigfoot.
that I like in anybody over anything is I don't have a strong affiliation or association with any political party, anything.
Yeah.
I like to be taught. I'm curious. I just like to see what's actually working. What are your thoughts? What are your views? What can you show me?
Okay. So you're in conflict now with the trainer. The people at puppy school, they're dickheads. You think so because PETA said so, right? You have a hell of a time raising this puppy because you got no support. It's loose in your house. You're doing the lock it in the laundry, hear it stop crying. You eventually let it out. You find a level.
But isn't that a giant crate?
Yeah, but no, PETA didn't say that.
It's a laundry.
Right?
Yeah.
You have a hard time toilet training it. It's shitting and pissing all through the house. It's 8 months old before.
Eating things it shouldn't be.
Yep. It's
dangerous things.
It's been to the vet already because it's had a
blockage.
Yeah, it's had a blockage. It's eaten, right?
Yep.
You then have a friend that you bump. So like your dog's 4 years old. It's kind of leveled out. It's okay now. It's a bit reactive. because it has no frustration tolerance, because we can explain that. That's
Wouldn't you
one of the
love
main
to know
things.
the stats on that of actual animals that have died, like it's cost them their life because of that very incident?
Yeah. But so me and my dog that I've had this struggle with, I'm out and I see a friend of mine. They say, "Oh, how do you find having a dog?" I go, "It's a fucking disaster. I hate it. I resent this dog." And you say, "Oh, well, I was thinking about getting a dog." I'm like, "Don't. It's terrible. It's very difficult to get through that puppy phase." I've had this conversation with plenty of people who didn't have access to good support, got bad advice, and they will tell you the process of raising a puppy was torture for them and that they hated it and they would never do it again, right? Like I've had that conversation with numerous people. I'm sure you have as well.
That's why I get called round to people's houses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of people who never got the phone number of someone who could help them. They never actually got that information. They didn't end up in the right forums to read what to do. They never ended up with the right phone numbers. They just struggled and it was torture.
The puppy never lasted a month. I've had that conversation by friends at parties where they've said, "Oh, I had a puppy once. He only lasted 4 weeks. So fuck that. I'm not going to put up with that shit."
Yeah, I've met plenty of people say the same. Yeah, like I couldn't handle it. 3 days, I would send it back, right? And I'm like, what?
Yep.
But they have that conversation with someone else who then goes, "Oh, maybe I won't get a dog."
Yep.
And PETA wins. That's exactly what
That's
they
what
wanted.
I'm saying, that you've got to hardcore examine that narrative of equipment versus crates and so forth. Like they're coming after everything. There's no shame.
Okay. I want to keep reading.
But it's very viral and it's ingenious if you look at the scandal behind it.
Yeah, it's clever. So we read the first bit. Let's read a little bit more.
Let's go deeper down the rabbit hole.
We know crate training is a myth.
Being locked in a crate for hours isn't training. Dogs are social. They need exercise.
Is there a full stop in there?
Yes.
Okay, where's the full stop?
It says being locked in a crate for hours isn't, in inverted commas, training, full stop. How many hours are we talking about?
Yeah, like what are we at here? Like for sure, you can keep a dog in a crate too long, especially with a young dog.
What's too short? What's too long?
That's right.
What's
how long's a piece of string? But I think that you have to build. Like when I start putting dogs in crates, initially, like day one, if I end up with a dog, I put him in for half an hour, let him out, like, or maximum 2 hours.
Yep.
Usually I want to wear them out, put them in tired so they fall asleep. I'm around. I ideally want them sort of as they're rousing, I'm opening the crate, letting them out. That's going to be within a half hour, 2 hour window for that puppy. If it is a puppy, I'm going to try and observe that rhythm and I'm going to try and have the dog going into the crate on those rhythms. I'm going to build that period. I think that hours plural, having a dog in the crate for hours, I think I'm okay with that. There's a part where I go, hey, maybe we should be getting that dog out more often, right? Like, or we're tipping into cruel, then it doesn't come out often enough, especially if it's soiling in the crate and it's left in there. There's definitely ways you can do horrible shit to a dog with nothing but a crate.
I'm in support of that, and I would support that narrative if it was explained in better detail.
Okay. So
hang on. Let's talk about dogs in place. Like, how long should they be in place markers for?
Yeah, I don't know. So that's a funny one because
I heard and I saw a narrative online that says you're a piece of shit if you leave dogs in a place marker for more than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, who decides these times?
Yeah. I think that people, like, I'm not a place trainer. Even when I was doing a lot of in-home stuff, I have never really been that's the dog space that's only allowed there. Like, I've done that. When people want that, I can explain to them.
Yeah, I ask the family what's their preference. Like, I just say to them, like, what's your lifestyle? What do you need from the dog? Here's my thoughts and concerns and feelings around this, but what are yours?
Yeah. If you were to see my dogs, it almost looks like they've been taught a place because they hang. Well, Valerie never stops moving, right? So she's always running around.
Yeah.
But Remy sleeps in the same spot and he will, sometimes Jane will work from home and she'll send me photos. She sometimes put them on Instagram and she puts them as a story. Like, he'll spend the entire workday upside down in the exact same spot on the couch.
Yeah, I've seen his.
Like, he doesn't move. His place is he goes onto this particular couch. That in his life has been 3 different couches.
Yeah.
It's just that space that he likes to be in, like, because it commands the room, right? Like, he can see everything. He can see the front door. He can see the back door. He can see the whole space. He can see what everything's going on. So that's where he likes to hang out. It would look like he's been told to get there. I've never once told him to go there.
Yep.
He chooses that. But he is there for my whole workday.
Yep.
Like, once I leave to go to work, because I'm really the only one he interacts with, right? So, like, Jane's working in her office, which sees where he is. He just is on the couch all day. He just goes upside down, powers down. Like, I can see as I'm walking out the door, he kind of nods at me like, So when you get back, I'm going to go fall asleep because I got nothing else going on. So I think that commanding a dog to be on place for more than 20 minutes is quite all right if you've built to that and like that's where you want the dog to be while you're doing other stuff. I'm okay with it. Like I say, I'm not like a teach the dog place kind of person. Not that I wouldn't. I prefer to say to the dog, like actually I prefer to say to the dog, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, than to say to the dog, do this. Because I prefer to have the dog be like, well, I want to get up and move around and do all these things. I'd rather the dog know what it can't do than rather tell it like you must do this. And then when it finds the thing that I'm okay with, because I don't say no, and it's comfortable with, it kind of teaches itself place in that regard, right?
Well, whether you like it or not, be it known that there will be people that will be coming after place training very soon. Like that narrative is already existing. I've seen it in comments before where I've thought, fuck, here we go. This is why this comment here sparked my outrage today because I looked at it and I thought, why are we giving credibility to these people? How have we empowered these people and these zany celebrities that get behind them? Yes, there's terrible people out there who do terrible things and will always continue to do it. But what about the majority of people who have then been tarnished with that and then having that preached to them? Like, you're not worthy because there's a very small percentage of insanely horrible people that do like incredulous, terrible shit to their own children, humanity. They're a danger to themselves. They're a blight on our species. But because of what they do, you're going to be held accountable for their atrocities. I am all for it and always have been. If somebody does something that is atrocious to one of our own species or another, they should pay the social consequences for that in whatever country. But it's
defining what that is. That's where we're at.
Aren't we adult enough to have that conversation without it being hysterical?
Yeah, but I think posts like that are done by people who will tell you that the ends justifies the means. So to lie, to conceal the truth, to give half-truths, to push people. Like the person that reads that and goes, oh, okay, well, I won't use the crate on this new dog that I have. That person's suffering and that dog is going to be increased significantly. And they would know that, right? Like they'd be aware.
But that's what I'm saying.
But from their point of view, because what they ultimately want is less people to own dogs, the suffering of that person.
No people to own dogs.
Yeah,
that's the cornerstone of this organisation.
But no begins with less, right? So that's what they want. They want a downward trajectory. They don't want to, like, I'm sure that they would stop it entirely if they could, like at the snap of their fingers, but that's impractical.
It's just the game of death by a thousand cuts.
Yeah, that's right.
What they're playing.
But so they're happy to increase the suffering of that dog and that person that reads that post and follows through for the long-term gain of that person being an example of suffering that others see and choose to avoid that suffering by not getting the dog. Like they're the grease that's powering the machine. They're the grease between those two gears and you're getting smushed together. Let's carry on. So we've established that crate training for hours can be a part of training and there's a point where that can go too far.
Yep.
But like right now, I left my house at 2:00 in the afternoon. My dog is in my car. He's been in a crate in the car. It's presently 4:42 in the afternoon, right?
You fucking unfeeling monster.
Yeah, I am. And you know what? When I was like, hey man, you want to go do some stuff? He jumped off the couch, his place, and fucking ran to the car and was headbutting the crate door trying to get into it because he knows, yes, you're going to be in that crate for several hours, but when you come out, you're going to get to do really cool shit, right? And then you're going to go back into that crate and he'll only do...
According to you, sir, according to other people, you should have a red hot poker shoved right up your bottom. He should be
loose in the car.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, just terrorizing your car.
My Malinois, who has learned how to do a carjacking... should be just loose in the car.
So here's a good point to that, right? So there was a time many, many years ago when I used to have constructed cages in the back. I had a Ford panel van. I was using it for security. It was my car, but I had...
Like a Sandman?
Yeah, like a Sandman.
Best car
ever. Shag and wagon.
Yeah.
So I had 2 cages set up in the back dedicated for the dogs. I had drawers and all those sort of things, so all collars and tactical gear, everything like that. So one day I had to pick a dog up. So I had 2 dogs in the back already. And one day I had to pick a dog up. So I put my little female Rottweiler on the front seat. I shut the door. I went and did something. You know, doors were down. It was night. It was cool. It was Melbourne. It's cool in Melbourne all the time. I had the window down, came back. She had totally eaten my headrest. So something had aroused her. She saw something, and she wouldn't have done it without arousal, but something had aroused her, and she'd eaten the headrest and ingested some of the foam.
Yeah.
So had to back and forth to the vet, cost me an arm and a leg. So whatever money I made from the sale of the dog and the job that I just did, completely gone on vet fees.
Yeah, we had that here. Do you remember? I won't say his name, but when a certain club member was brand new and they came to the club for the first time with their shepherd, and I was like, yeah, cool, just make sure you got a crate in the car, because I knew that he traveled without a crate. And he's like, no, I don't need one. The dog's just loose in the back of the car. I was like, no. And he's like, no, he's loose in the car. And I was like, no, at an event like this,
high level arousal.
He has to be in the crate.
Yep.
He's like, no, it's fine. And I was like, man, do whatever. I don't care. So the dog comes out, gets the switch flicked for the first time, right? Like,
oh, I like this.
Yeah, this is the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Wait, hang on. Now I'm in the car. I can hear other dogs doing that thing that I really wanted to do. I got to get out of this car. Tore the driver's door apart.
Yep.
And he comes in, he's like, oh, the dogs are in the car. I was like, yeah, should have been in a crate.
It's notorious at working dog clubs if those dogs aren't safely confined in a crate.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're in a crate, they just realize, oh, I can bark, but I can't destroy anything.
Yeah.
I can bark and I can carry on, but there's nothing to destroy.
And of course, like, I know there'll be people listening going, yeah, but my dog does that. You go, yeah, like, you got lucky. That's not the norm. There's exceptions to every rule.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, carry on. So we know crate training.
Here we go.
The myth.
Dogs are social. They need exercise, enrichment, and love, not a cage.
I agree with everything up until those last two words. I believe that
three,
dogs...
sir, three.
Not a cage, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
I apologise.
Yep.
So I agree with that entirely. Dogs are social.
Yep.
They do need enrichment.
Yes.
And love.
And exercise.
And exercise, for sure.
Yep.
I've been spooking that dogs need love for a long time.
So we're advocating the majority of that piece there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the problem, right?
But
that's 100%.
Not a cage.
No, not a cage.
Yep.
Well, my dog, I feel confident that me personally, like, never mind my clients, me personally, I believe that my dog gets sufficient exercise.
Mm-hmm.
He's quite well. He's fit. In fact, he's got like a whole personal training program. We do all these things every day.
Yep.
He does a significant amount of training.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of my thing. What are the other things that we need here? Exercise.
So we've got dogs are social. They need exercise, enrichment. And love.
Okay, so wait on. Enrichment,
Mm-hmm.
got it. He's got the Kongs and all that bullshit in the house. We do all the things that he has, all the entertainment.
Yep.
We're out here doing, like, the reason, I mean, we're doing a podcast, but he's here to do bite work. He's being biologically fulfilled.
Yep.
And I can tell you, I love that dog more than I can possibly explain. Right?
You love that dog more than a majority of people you know.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That dog is part of your inner family sanctum.
Yeah.
He shares space
100%.
with your two sons, your wife. He sleeps inside your home.
Yeah.
He eats with you. He travels with you.
Someone actually, my neighbours, were in the garage the other
You've probably
day
done more travel with that dog than a lot of other people.
I've done more trouble with that dog than my wife.
Yeah.
For sure. We were in the garage the other day and all the people were there and Remy's down there and he's kind of staring at me. And one of the kids asked his mum, where's Remy? Like, because he doesn't do anything. And most of the people in my building have no idea that he is actually a trained dog because I don't really tell him to do anything. He just kind of like goes with the flow at home. He's very easy to live with at this point in his life. I don't like train in front of people. So he appears like just a normal pet, right? And he's looking at me and one of the kids is like, how come Remy's always looking at, like, he doesn't play with the kids. Val plays with the kids, Remy doesn't do it. The kid asked that of his mum and his mum was trying to explain that. And she says, well, because Pat's the boss. And she's like, do you think that's the right way to describe it? And I was like, nah. She said, how would you describe your relationship? I was like, that's my best fucking friend. Like, that's who that is. That's my companion. That's my buddy that I go places with and do cool
he just
stuff
doesn't
with.
see value in other people. Like, they can't provide value. There's no consistency of value that you
But that's how
provide.
I think of him, like, and especially now that he's retired, he doesn't compete or anything. That's just my buddy that I go places with. So I couldn't love the dog more. Thank you, PETA. I'm aware that it's necessary, but it would be impossible for me to love that dog any more than I do.
Now, did you pick up on that last part where they said not a cage? So we've been talking about crates, but now crates have changed narrative to a cage. Yeah. So very clever. They slipped that one in there.
Yeah.
So suddenly it's gone in a necessary, trusted training device that surpassed, it's probably billions of people. If you look at how many people own, I think 90 million people in the United States own a dog.
Wow.
That's part of a statistic I saw the other day.
Yeah, okay.
That's bigger than the population of Australia.
Yeah.
Double and a bit of the size of Australia that own dogs. So, look, I couldn't be sure how many people. I wouldn't be aware of that statistic. I almost don't know anybody that owns a dog that doesn't have a crate and hasn't enrolled in crate training.
Yeah. Well, but
And I
of
have
course,
access to
But we're dog people. Like, for sure, there are pet people who, like,
there are people
we
on
never
farms
interact
and things like
with.
that don't. Like, their dogs just hang out on
Yeah.
the balcony and do all those sort of things. I'm aware of that. Like, and we've lived that sort of life as well. And as I said, there have been inconveniences in the past where you've gone, 2-3 weeks of the dog tearing your bathroom apart or your laundry apart. You go in the morning and towels are pulled off the hook and there's shit all over the floor. And before you go to work, you got to clean up piss-ridden and shit-covered towels and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so we get on to the next part. Crates don't teach good behavior. They cause anxiety and make dogs feel trapped and neglected.
Okay.
Full stop.
So that's interesting, right? So crates, I would argue, do teach good behavior. That's the whole point of it, right?
Yep.
Like we're in management until we have taught the behavior. So it's a part of the teaching process. Crates do teach good behavior. And in fact, the amazing thing that PETA is saying is, like, jokes aside, is they're all about don't say no to the dog. So what the fuck do you do with this dog when it's in the house?
Don't have one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right.
That's the point. Let's get real here. Don't have a dog. It's too much hard work.
But like in training a dog to live without the crate is a super necessary tool because, hey, I can't supervise you right now. I can't make sure that you're getting the right inputs to have the right output to you. So because I can't give you 100% of my attention, I need to put you in this place where you can't get anything wrong so that you don't have, you can't get anything wrong, can't get anything right. You're just there. You're waiting till I can give you my attention again. And that way we don't get any bad habits. We don't have anything that is dangerous to the puppy. It absolutely is a part of effective training. Carry on. What was the next bit?
Your dog's happiness should never come second to your convenience.
That is the crux of how they're trying to destroy animal ownership.
Yep.
That you have to destroy your life for the convenience of the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to make your entire life revolve around that dog. This is where it gets tricky because I can probably put myself into this category in a healthy way, or, who knows, maybe I'm a very unhealthy person, but we have seen many people whose entire lives revolve around their dogs in a very unhealthy way.
Oh, especially in the sporting dog world.
But I would say that in those, that certainly, and we've talked on that. And there's people who have dependencies and stuff like that on their dogs, that like
marriage separations, all sorts of things.
But there's a lot of people who put a lot of their own self-worth into the accomplishments of their dog.
100%.
And that's a different topic. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
We can very much have that conversation, but that's a different thing. I think that what they're implying there is that you have to forego any freedoms or liberties that you want, or your own lifestyle must come second to your dog.
Your dog's happiness should never come second to your convenience.
Yeah. This is the same sort of shit. And this is the one that like lets the dog, I can't stop my dog. I can't let him pull into the leash. I have to go wherever he wants to go.
I have to let him go over and bite the convulsing dog. And,
Even if that dog's having a seizure over there, I have to go let him kill it.
Yep.
That's his will.
Yep.
That's the issue of that. And that is, I think, the crate part is insidious, but is that the final line? Is that?
No.
Oh, there's more.
In the picture there, where you see a very contented, happy-looking dog sitting in a crate with a Kong.
Yeah, it looks great.
Looks great.
If a client sent me that picture, I'd just send him a thumbs up.
Great. Yeah,
good for you.
Great. But it says, life is too precious to be spent in a crate. What about precious outside of a crate where the dog ingests something in the middle of the night and you have no idea
You wake up to your dead dog.
that you've woken up to a dead dog, or a dog that needs to be rushed to the hospital, which has been the case on multiple times. I would love to hear from the vets out there. Let's put this into reality, whether you agree with us or not. Let's talk about reality here. If you're a vet or a vet tech or a nurse or something like that, let's discuss this in the discussion group. How many times have you had people come that weren't crated, that have gotten out and eaten something that they shouldn't have eaten, ingested something during the middle of the night, and either A, found the dog dead, or B, had the dog rushed there for emergency surgery to take out whatever the dog ingested? I'd love to know from our community.
Yeah.
I know this from having conversations with vets ourselves. There was a vet a while ago that made a profound statement to one of our clients. They picked up their dog from the boarding kennel and the dog had like a cut on its pad. Nothing serious. It was just a slight
pacing injury or something like that.
It was just like
Stress
a rub
from
mark.
being in the
It was a rub mark. They immediately got the dog out, didn't consult us. They took the dog to the vet. So when they got to the vet said, oh, this is the second dog in a week that's come from that kennel. What are they doing? So the client used that in like a legal letter to come back to us and said, blah, 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 this is what the vet said. I was the person mediating with the client at the time and I said, can I see a picture of the paw? Like I want to know, was the dog stitched? No. Did the dog require any surgery or did it require a stay at the vet? No. What did the dog require? Basically, all it was a lotion, like a cream. So I wasn't dismissing it and I wasn't saying it didn't happen. Subsequently, since that time, anytime a dog has any type of bump or mark or anything like that, we immediately take a picture to the client and send it to them, whether they're on holiday or not, and just say, hey, just let you know, this has happened. It's all fine. Would you like the dog to go to the vet or would you like us to just put some lotion on the dog and monitor? Majority of people say, hey, cool, thanks for letting us know. Just put some lotion on the dog. Now, I would say that's probably 99% of people who are realistic dog owners and know that their dogs move and go bump in the night. I rang the vet and I said, hey, mate, you and I need to have a conversation about this. Like you made a statement that's now gone legal. How many people do you see a week that have bumps, marks, ingested items, have escaped the property, been struck by vehicles on the street, et cetera, in their own homes? He said, oh, what's that got to do with this? And I said, answer the question for me, bud. And he goes, oh, yeah, but we're talking about a different thing. And I said, no, we're not. And I said, how many dogs do you see that injure themselves in the presence of their own owners versus have come from our facility? And he goes, oh, I'm not prepared to answer that. And I said, because it's fucking ridiculous, isn't it? You would see a vast majority of dogs that injure themselves at home, like children do at home or at school or at the shopping center or anywhere it is. So the reality is the two dogs that you saw were for superficial things. To make a statement, a blanket statement to somebody like that who then got emotional, distressed about it, and then decided to challenge it legally where we had to shut them down, lose them as a client, shame on you for doing that. This is a little conversation that I want to take the time to have with people who get emotional and even professionals in the industry. Think about what you're saying before you make statements like that. That should have been like, oh yeah, look, dogs do things like that. They injure themselves. And I'm sure that if you brought that up to the business, they would be happy to talk to you further or discuss it with you or anything like that. All it is a little conversation that you can have around it rather than create these pathways of hysteria around simple matters like this. And we have great relationships with hundreds of vets around New South Wales, now into other states, where they look at it and say, hey, that's what dogs do. That's what cats do. Normal shit. It's normal shit. This is what cats do. Teachers at school say, hey, that's what kids do. Kids are kids. Have you spoken to a teacher about all the responsibilities that have been labelled on them of kids since you were a child at school and to what they are now?
Oh, well, so like I can tell you firsthand, like say at daycare, Axel's at daycare, and it was the same when Rip was there. If they are hurt in any way, shape or form, there's a report, there's a whole, like they call you, it's a whole thing for like fell over, scratched his knee. Like it's a whole...
Yeah, for something superficial.
Yeah. And like for when it's something serious, like fair enough, for sure. You got to do that. And especially if it's something that was like a near miss, you know, like fuck, that could have been much worse.
And you
lucky
should
it went
because
that
you're
way.
the custodian.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But even like at the daycare, if he so much as like has a bump on any part of him, and it could be from just like fell over in the sandpit, that's a whole incident report.
Yep.
And you get a phone call in the day, it's a whole thing.
What do you think drives that?
It's for sure to stop like legal proceeding against them. It's to cover their ass. It's to show like we're aware of this. It happened on our watch, and now there's documentation to support that we were not in the wrong as this happened, or that this just is a thing that happens. It's kind of over the top. Like at the daycare, it's over the top. And to the point where they're like, oh, you got to sign another incident report. Like every time you go in there, like, oh, righto.
I don't mind the fact, and I applaud it, the fact that over time we've evolved with our care and responsibility that if a dog has something that's not serious to something that is serious, that the owner is notified. Like I would like to be notified.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like anytime something's happened with a dog, like rather than come home and see it and then get a surprise. I mean, when we were in America, Ladybug scratched up the back of her leg. So the lady that was looking after her for us, she messaged and said, hey, just letting you know, over the last couple of days, Ladybug's been dragging her back leg and she's scratched up the back of her heel. And we said, show me a picture. Showed us a picture and I said, look, we've got some steroidal cream for that.
Yeah.
Just rub it on her and she'll be fine.
Well, that's the function of that kind of thing. And I think that's what, is important at the daycare is even in the dog space, you get a dog that gets a bump in the kennel or whatever, and you go, hey, no big deal, but this happened. And then the owner might go, no, that is a big deal because it has this other injuries. Like there's more to it than you know.
Yes.
Like that's the point of that, right? Like that's the point of why you inform the owner when it's no big deal because maybe there's something else going on you don't know about.
It's just better that there is no shock and awe when they come back. They're tired, they're fatigued.
Yeah.
They've just been traveling on a plane or whatever it is. They might have been to a funeral. You don't know what they're going through when they get back. It's better that you just address it at the time and say, yes, we're custodians. Yes, we want to take responsibility. Here is the issue. What would you like us to do about it?
Yeah.
The narrative here is the hysterical narrative that professionals place around that. That's where the real irresponsibility lies. And that's what I'm calling out, whether it be PETA or RSPCA or the local vet or whoever. They don't need to take an emotional sponsorship of it. What they need to do is they need to say, okay, well, for the people who are committing these offences, we're going to come down fucking hard on them. These people are really going to start seeing some swift justice served on them. And the disappointing thing is that a person who does something minimal can get absolutely barraged and cancelled and everything on the internet, whereas people who are legitimate criminals in animal space or children trafficking or whatever it is, they get a slap on the wrist. This is why I'm happy that Trump basically said the other day, anybody who's involved in that in his court will immediately receive the death penalty. Fuck those people.
In child trafficking. Yeah.
Those people, if you're doing shit like that to innocent little kids, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. As long as it's not a patsy and it's a legitimate person convicted of it. What I'm saying is just that the hypocrisy, it's the hypocrisy that I think we need to call out as owners, trainers, compassionate people involved in our dog space. Like when people are making blanket statements of that, what's the end goal narrative? What's the funnel that we're all being tipped into? We know what it is. We've exposed it. It's removal of the ability to own a dog.
Yeah.
I don't know where we are in 1,000 cuts. I don't know what level of magnitude we are in it. I'm just hopeful. I'm really hopeful that with the narrative and the change of government and so forth, that we get away from some of these emotionally led, easily, hate to say it, some of these woke politicians who are easily influenced into some of these decision-making where they actually sit there and consider all of the facts. I really admire when I do look at people who put their careers at stake because they are considering the actual legalities and the facts around it. And not just going with the emotional. It seems that the popular vote is the emotional vote. That's weird. It's crazy. Like
well, it's easy to get action from people when you push emotional stuff.
Well, it creates arousal, doesn't it? I think it wakes
look at us. We're emotional about that.
True.
Post. And
okay,
here we are
you
talking
got me.
about it.
You got me.
It pushes action. That's for sure.
It did. My call to action for people is when you see posts like that, think about the end goal here. When I outline hypocrisy, there was a post that I saw a while ago from a very outspoken advocate for removing tools, animal rights, et cetera, that when their breed was on the line, they complained vehemently about it. Because, like I said, they're not your friends. They're just a convenient fucking ramrod for you to use when you're trying to kill your enemy. But when your enemy is gone, they're coming after you like they have to.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop until the end game is played out. And the end game is take all animals and basically living a vegetarian, vegan lifestyle. You know, I'm not picking on vegetarians. I'm not picking on vegans people who decide that they don't want to eat meat and they want to live that lifestyle and they feel that it's healthier and they're happier and that their life is great. That narrative that is blanket statement across the entire humanity, I don't agree with it.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
That's it. Another episode, Canine Paradigm.
Yeah.
We did it. There's a couple of things that we didn't get to talk about, like our actual topic.
We did.
As well as I wanted you to expand on the 5 freedoms, but I think that that's something that we should probably do another time because that's an interesting topic.
Have we not talked about the 5 freedoms before?
I feel like we have, but a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it would be a thing
revisit?
It would be a thing worth it re-exploring.
One great topic that I brought up at the end there of last week's episode is that I'm having some amazing conversations with people who have been on specific sort of diets. And again, it's not pushing our stuff because there's countries like the UK, Europe, and all countries where Narelle can't sell her product. She doesn't have the ability to do so. Nonetheless, I'm still having conversations with people in parts of Europe where we're talking about the effect and change that they've seen from changing their dog's diets over. You know, especially in the working dog fields where they've said, mate, mental clarity, changes in neuroticisms in my dog that once I've made the change, within weeks of doing it, it's gone. Things that I've struggled with for many years of the dog's life suddenly have changed. I'm looking at a fitter, more robust dog in its clarity. So having those conversations with people, because sometimes when you start having these conversations, especially when you're talking about changing diets or supplements, people out there going, oh, fucking hell. I remember when people used to have them with me. My martial arts coach used to do it to me all the time. He used to tell me in the early days, before Narelle, before all this, about soil changes and superphosphates and nitrates in the soils and stuff like that. He was really preachy about it. And I used to roll my eyes going, you fucking lunatic. But it turns out that like UFOs, it turns out everything he was saying is absolutely true. Like we cannot get our nutritional daily needs met by fruits and vegetables that we're buying through supermarkets because they've made en masse. You know, like our chickens are force-fed, they're using steroids. Our beef, like look at this new thing that Bill Gates is trying to inject cattle with to stop them from farting and stuff like that. So many crazy things. So unfortunately, we need to go back into looking at better forms of feeding, more organic ways of doing it, you know, and if we can't do things like that, even going into healthy organic supplementation. So I'm a strong advocate for it because when I use it and when I encourage people to do it, I'm seeing people coming back saying, fucking hell, I'm getting change with my dog. And that's the only reason I'm in it for it. I'm not running away laughing all the way to the bank by telling people this. As I said, people are doing this. They're making it in their own home. They're using other companies to get it. All I want for you is to have a healthier, fitter, more mentally robust dog. Overall, I'm looking at the holistic picture. I'm trying to solve the behavioral aspect as much as I can, and now the mental clarity and physical clarity if I possibly can, if I can have any input to it. Thanks for people I've had conversations with. There's been a couple of people who reached out about different forms of dry foods and so forth. I'm a big believer in Ziwi Peak. For some people, it's out of the question because it's very expensive. But just look at the processing, and there's something that Narelle educated me on about the Maillard effect, which is whenever you cook, especially when you barbecue sausages or any sort of foods, but when it starts getting that browning effect, that burning effect, it's called the Maillard effect, very carcinogenic. It's very problematic. So the dries that we're getting sold for our dogs, they go through the Maillard effect. They're being heated to such high degrees that there is nothing that we can do about that. Where there's other forms of air drying and there's
other ways.
There's alternatives. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'll shut up now. I know I get very passionate about it. I love it. I'm so in love with the concept of it because, like I said, actions speak louder than words. What you can physically see with your eyes, the transformation you have, the gratitude and the thanks that you get from people. Like it's been incredible. It's been very, very overwhelming. So I'm glad I've been able to have an impact on a small amount of people.
Nice. All right. That's it. Another episode, Canine Paradigm. As always, if you like what you hear, just like, rate, share, subscribe. Do that through whatever subscription service you download us from and then go to another one.
Yep.
If you want to support the show, best way to do that is to jump in Patreon.
Yes.
A few bucks a month, get you a giant backlog of information, new stuff going forward.
Thanks to the people that do, like always. Thank you to our regular, loyal people that just tip in and just let their subscription slide. Yeah.
It keeps the show ticking over without a doubt.
It definitely does.
Another way you could support the show is to jump into spring. There's links in the show notes. You get yourself some cool merch like T-shirts or like a giant wall tapestry or something like that.
Must get the tapestry. Be like Casey.
Yeah, get like 6 of them.
Casey's got tapestries all over his shop now.
Yeah, well, your shop probably has 4 walls, so that's 4 tapestries.
4 tapestries, yeah.
If you want to get in touch with us, best way to do that, jump into the Facebook discussion groups. Lots of cool stuff happening in there. That's where we sort of group source information. And if we're talking about stuff like we did in this episode, we'll put that screenshot in so that conversation can carry into there.
That's what I'd like to do with each time we do an episode is let's talk about the episode in the discussion group.
Yeah. All right. There was a time where we had planned to go live in the discussion group and sort of let people give their feedback to us like a couple of days after a thing. I don't know if you can still do that. Can you still go live in Facebook groups?
Yeah, I think so.
You can go in a group. I'm not sure whether you can go in a group anymore. Anyway, we'll figure that out. We'll look into that kind
Pretty
of stuff.
sure you can.
Yeah. All right. I'll have a look. All right. That's it. Get in touch with us. Give us an email.
Yep.
We're info@thecanineparadigm.com. Hope your dog lives forever.
In a crate.
In a crate. But don't keep him in the crate the whole time. Enrich him, love him, train him, but don't let him eat your fucking socks. So put him in a crate at night to keep your fucking dog alive. Don't let these dickheads tell you not to use a fucking crate. Love you, bye.